The film look seems to be all the rave lately. Lucky for you, I have one tool that will help you achieve this look. So today I'll be reviewing the Dehancer plugin and also doing a color grading walkthrough just to show y'all how to put it to work inside of Premiere Pro. What Dehancer is it's a film emulation tool. There's honestly a lot of tools out there that you can use to achieve the film look. But in my opinion, I think that Dehancer does a really good job of just packaging this and putting it all into one plugin and making it very customizable and very easy to use. Yeah, would highly recommend Dehancer. Pretty cool plugin, man. If you like what you see today, you can go ahead and download Dehancer for yourself in the link in bio. You can also get it for 10% off using the code NILDESTA. Yeah. And if you are interested in using Dehancer, but maybe you're not sure about making the full commitment, having that lifetime license, we also do offer 3-month licenses and free trials as well. So if you want to test it out on like a couple projects here or there, you can definitely go ahead and do that. So yeah, would highly recommend that as well if you're looking to just test it out, see these looks for yourself. But without further ado, we'll be moving over to Premiere Pro today and doing this little tutorial, man. Alright, so I look different, the lighting looks different. You had a power outage, we're back now, that just makes everything I recorded that good of a trial run. Now we're on to the real one. Alright, so for this tutorial today, there are 2 clips I'm going to be color grading. This first clip, we have lots of greenery, browns and oranges are going to show up well in this. Nice sunlight going onto the subject's face. I do feel like I overexposed the scene a little bit too much. I didn't expose for skin tones, made a mistake right there. So I'll also go over how to address that. And then in this scene, lots of vibrant colors. We have lots of green right here, also with blue in the background. I'm also going to be going over like film compression and how we can maintain those highlights. We're going to maintain those highlights, man. So yeah, 2 similar but different clips. First things first, a lot of people feel like, color grading is key and everything that comes in post-production can save you. No, that's not true. Like, color grading starts in the shooting process. You need to nail your exposure. You should be shooting in flat color profiles like log, S-log, C-log, whatever it may be for your camera. These are the things that are going to allow you to have the dynamic range to play with in the color grading process. So always make sure that, you're nailing your exposure. Like, that is key. Nail your exposure. That's the first step. No, step 0. That's step 0 right there. The next thing you always want to do whenever you're color grading is you want to go to Window and select Lumetri Scopes. Lumetri Scopes is this tab right here. But the TLDR version of Lumetri Scopes is that you don't want your image to either peak at 0 or 100. What does that mean? You want it to be barely touching 100, barely touching 0, but you don't want it to touch either of these values. So always have that right on over here to keep that in mind. So we will now go over how does Dehancer work, right? So right on over here in Effect Controls, we have the Dehancer plugin. So I don't have it enabled right now, so this is what our raw footage looks like in Sony S-Log 3. I will go ahead and enable it. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look right at all. This is not the film look, right? So there's quite a few adjustments that we will have to make. So first things first, you gotta adjust your input. So we're gonna go ahead and choose our camera. In my case, I shot with a Sony A7 IV. I'm looking for A7 IV. Yes, and then I always shoot in S-Log 3, S-Gamut 3 Sync. Now we have our footage converted to a Rec 709 color space. Like I said, I believe that I was not exposing for skin tones. So I will go over to exposure comp and bring this down so that we can see the face just a little bit better. I'll bring this to -0.6 for now, and don't feel like these are permanent changes. You know, it's completely normal in the color grading process to kind of go like back and forth. You know, you adjust one thing, okay, maybe I need to adjust the exposure comp just a little bit more. So it's going to be a back and forth process, but we will keep this at negative 0.6 for now. Next, we go to temperature comp. You know, we bring it all the way to the negative side, it's going to turn our image blue. Bring it over here, it's going to turn to orange. It is really just controlling the warmth of our image right on over here. So for the film look, we typically like to go for something that's a little bit warmer. So I will bring this to about 42. Yeah. Tint controls, purple and green. I often do add a little bit of tint just to add some green in the mid-tones, but it's not going to be like the color temperature where we're going like negative 40 or something. We're more so going for something very subtle, possibly like negative 5. So there we have it. Input all set. Now we get into the fun parts. So we are going to go to the film tab right on over here. So what the film tab does is it has a bunch of different film emulations for different film stocks. I'm gonna go ahead and just go over some popular ones right on over here. Cinecell 800T, very popular film stock. Another one I really like is Kodak Ektachrome E100. This has very vibrant colors. Kodak Gold 200 also has warmer tones. That is always a good film stock to go with. We have Kodak Portra 400 and we have Portra 800. Both are very popular and both kind of retain like the natural look of things. So if you want your skin tones to remain relatively neutral without too much change, Portra 400 and Portra 800 are really good bets right there. Kodak Vision 3 500T, another very popular film stock right now, and it also kind of has like that faded washed out look. So one of my personal favorites though that I have really been rocking with recently is Konica Impressa 50. This one just has really vibrant color, man. The greens just pop out, it looks amazing. So I typically go with this. And next up, we're going to our film developer tab, right? So I usually use contrast boost and color boost. So what does contrast boost do? It's pretty self-explanatory. Boom, boom. It's just gonna either increase or reduce our contrast. I think that for the film stock we have, the contrast looks relatively good. I will possibly increase it just a little bit, probably somewhere around there, 12. And then I'm also gonna go to color boost. Color boost, man, y'all. Color boost is so cool. It's almost like a smart saturation tool or like a smart vibrance tool. Think about it like that. It's boosting your colors, but in a very natural way. So when you bring it up, you know, it's gonna boost those oranges in the skin tones, oranges in the log, and the greens just look beautiful whenever you use color boost. So I'll typically bring this anywhere between 40 to 70. I think we're gonna do quite a bit of adjusting later on, so we'll go on the conservative end. We'll keep it at about 52. We can go ahead and change that later. Film compression is going to be the next thing that we look at. So when you're working with real authentic film, your highlight clipping often occurs later. You're not gonna have as much highlight clipping. So this is what film compression really controls. You know, if we go ahead and enable it right on over here, we get some details back in our highlights. And especially, like I said, I overexposed this scene. Skin tones were a little bit overexposed, too much light, you know. So this brought some detail back in the face. And we have the impact portion right here. I think 60. The default setting was very good, so we're gonna go ahead and keep it at that. Next, we have the expand tab. So what I would say the expand tab is most similar or like comparable to in like geometry is going to be the curves. So generally, you know, what you would do with curves is that you would bring the blacks in so that it barely touches 0, and you're also going to bring your whites out so that it's going to barely touch 100. Maybe I wouldn't even want to go that high, probably 90 for this image right here. The expand tab, it really does all of that, but just natively within this Dehancer. all we're doing is we're just adjusting the black point and white point using a simple slider. Bring this down, 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 down. And then, you know, we're keeping an eye out on lumetri scopes. It's right around the 0 range. I'm also looking at the image. We're gonna keep it at about 6. And then now we're gonna go ahead and bring up the highlights. We're gonna bring up that white point. We don't want it too bright. Alright, so next thing that we're going to is we're going to the print tab, right? This is like traditionally when you like print out the film. And each print is gonna have a very unique look to it. I mean, you have Cineon, Film Log, you have the Fujifilm, Kodak, and also Kodak Endura. I feel like Kodak Endura gives the most authentic feel without changing it up too much, but it does boost the contrast like we see over here, especially in our lumetri scopes. It brought the black point down quite a bit. So what we can go ahead and do with that is enable an analog range limiter, and that kind of just sorts everything out for us, limits it a little bit. Me personally, I really don't put a film print on most of my things. I will actually keep this on linear. We have color head right on over here. This is where we can add a little bit of some color to our image. So what we can do is we can either add yellow or blue to our image. We can add magenta or green. We can add cyan or red. What is this comparable to on lumetri? This is very comparable to your RGB curve right on over here. So for the film look, we typically do add a little bit of some yellows just to create a little bit of a warmer image. I do want some more greens. We don't want it crazy though. If you make it crazy, yeah, now it's just looking crazy. No more than 10, right? 10, you're doing too much. So I'm gonna put it around 3 on this. Reds can give your image a much warmer look, especially combined with the yellows. Probably go about 8. Alright, next thing we're doing is we're going to the film grain. Everybody loves film grain, right? That's a very big part of the film look. So, what can we do over here? They have a bunch of different film grains. So when you have a higher ISO value, that means you're going to have more grain. I do typically go with a 35mm film grain profile just because the size of the grain is kind of right in the middle. Whereas if you go with like Super 8, you're going to get really large grain. But I always do like to customize it as well. I just like to turn the amount down. Somewhere around 20 though. I really wouldn't want to go above 20. I think that looks perfect. Yep. And over here, you can change your film type. If you go on ahead and change it to negative, the film grain is going to be much more coarse. I'm going to go with positive just to keep it nice and smooth. Next, this is the reason I really love Dehancer, is for the halation. But what is halation? I'm going to go ahead and enable it so that everybody can see it. Halation is going to be these orange lines that appear in areas of high contrast, almost like a halo effect. And what Dehancer does is that, just like for film grain, it's going to give you a bunch of different profiles. What is, the standard version and the no ramjet? What is that? What does that really mean, right? From my understanding, what a ramjet is, it's an anti-halation layer that is applied to the film. So essentially, if it has ramjet, then there's less halation. No ramjet means more halation. So typically what I do is 35mm Super 35, no ramjet. Next we go on over to bloom. This is another reason I love Dehancer. It just blooms your highlights out a little bit more. It makes them softer, it's going to bring them out a little bit more. The reason I love bloom in Dehancer is because prior to using Dehancer, I would use a Mist Pro filter, and no shade against, Pro Mist filters, but there are a lot of times, when I was shooting with them, that it would wash out details, especially in the face. Literally, yeah, that's the exact reason I stopped using Pro Mist filters, but I still really like the film look. Dehancer has made it very easy for me to be able to add bloom and halation in the post process. So just to keep it consistent with the halation, I'm just gonna go with 35mm Super 35, and it's just made our highlights just a little bit softer. Film damage. So this very self-explanatory is going to add some damage into the image. You know, it's gonna add some imperfections. But yeah, if you want to have that super authentic film look, then you can definitely enable film damage, but typically I just leave this unchecked. Alright, so what do we have next? We have film breath. Film breath is a phenomena that occurs whenever you're shooting on film. You're gonna have like accidental changes in exposure whenever the frame moves. So this is most noticeable on 8mm film, like Super 8 film. If you really want to see the effect, we can see it right on over here. Accidental changes in exposure, right? And contrast and all of that. It's changing a little bit from frame to frame. That is the general concept of film breath. I like to have this on Super 35mm film. Alright, so next up we have gate weave. What is gate weave? When you're working with film cameras, you have to like manually like read the film. And when you're doing that, the frame might move a little bit. So that's really what gate weave is. It's those slight imperfections where the frame is gonna move slightly. So again, with this effect, I just typically keep it on 35mm Super 35. If you want to make it custom, values are all right on over here. Next, we're moving on to overscan. So with overscan right on over here, these are all of those film overlays that we see. We have a bunch of different options. So we have ones for Super 8, standard 16mm film, all these different options, man. And within these options, you also do have the option of changing how this border presents itself. So you have neat, normal. If you want it sharper around the corner, you can do that. You can make it rounder, all of these things. You know, overscans I think are very situational, so I probably won't apply it. And then we have vignetting. I don't mess around with vignetting too much, but self-explanatory, you can go ahead and add a vignetting. Alright, so that is our first clip. If you really don't, you're like, bruh, I don't want to use Lumetri color. Yeah, you can literally do everything out of Dehancer. So yeah, pretty cool plugin, guys. Pretty cool plugin. Very powerful plugin. What we have here with this scene is that it has a little bit more blue and just an overall wider range of colors. I just kind of want to show you guys how Dehancer deals with a wider range of colors. Hopefully it's going to show the film compression feature a little bit better with the blue sky in the background right on over here. I'm going to go ahead and run through the process just a little bit quicker this time. So I will go to input and change it from Rec 709 to our camera, which is a Sony A7 IV over here. Possibly negative 0.1 or 0.2 on our exposure comp. So temperature comp, I definitely want to bump this up, make this a little bit of a warmer image. Tint comp, you know, we don't want to go over 10. I'll probably keep this at -5. Next, we're gonna go over to film stocks. I'll try to go with a different film stock for this one. Let's test out Ektachrome E100, just because from what I'm seeing so far, I do like how the greens are showing up. Go ahead and just to push and pull just a little bit. Film developer, another really important piece of this all. This is really where it's going to boost the oranges in the skin tones as well as greens in the background. So we're going to go to color boost and just bump this up. Like I said, we want to be within the 40 to 70 range. And now we'll go over to film compression. I think this is a scene that's going to work really well for film compression because we have the sky in the background. Harsh highlights. It's going to go ahead and kind of take care of that for us. When I enable that, yep, how the sky changes a little bit, bring some color back into it. Next, we're going over to expand. right on over here, we're just gonna go ahead and drag this until, you know, it's barely touching zero. We would do the same for the whites. We're gonna get it closer to 100, but the closer we get it to 100, the more the sky is gonna clip, the more that those details are going to be obscured. So I actually want to keep the sky relatively blue. So I don't even want to go that far close to 100. I'm gonna probably keep it like right around here. The film print, we can always experiment with this a little bit. In my opinion, I think the only one that really looks good is Kodak Endura glossy paper. So between linear and Kodak Endura, it's just going to make add some extra contrast in our shadows. But because we did that, now we're touching zero. So I'll actually go back to expand, and I'm gonna change the black point, maybe a little bit down, 1.6. And I think that looks perfect right there. Next, we're going over to color head. Like I said, we're just adding some color to our image. Yellow tends to work well because it's going to make our image a little bit warmer, and red as well. Just a little bit of the green. We don't want to overdo it with green. Alright, so on this clip, I want to go a little bit more in depth with the film grain. So if we're looking to emulate Super 8 film, when we look at the grain, the granules are much larger, whereas as we go up to 16 and 35 and 65, the grain is going to be less noticeable. We're going to do 35 millimeter ISO 500. Next, we're going to go ahead and add some halation. 8 millimeter is going to have the most halation. As you go up, you're going to have less halation. I will go with Super 35, no remjet, and for bloom, we're also going to go with Super 35. And for this one, yeah, let's go ahead and add some film damage and film breathing. And when we do a Super 8 film breath, it becomes really noticeable. We'll keep it exaggerated. Let's actually go with Super 8. So it's gonna have large variations in exposure and contrast from frame to frame whenever it moves. Gate weave, I'm also gonna go ahead and enable that, and I will put it on Super 16, make the gate weave a little bit more noticeable. We could go ahead and add an overscan as well. But I think I'll go with Super 35, just because a lot of our adjustments have been centered around 35 millimeter film. I really do like the sharper corners, so we'll go ahead and do neat sharp. One thing that you can do, if you want to go ahead and apply lumetri to it afterwards to adjust your colors a little bit more, you can definitely go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and demonstrate that right now. So we have our lumetri colors tab right on over here. One thing that I will typically always adjust is the hues of my greens. I like my greens to be really green. So what I can go ahead and do right on over here, the hue versus hue tab, is make some points. Just make those greens a little bit greener. And you can even have it spill a little bit more onto the yellow, and it's going to encompass some of the other areas of the tree. And you're going to go ahead and bring it down, and yeah, believe it or not, there we go. There's our clip. Super easy. Easy button. Film emulation, just like that. So yeah, that is a color grading walkthrough of 2 clips utilizing Dehancer. That's really how you get the authentic film look. If you guys are looking for a more general color grading tutorial, just natively with inside Lumetri color, definitely let me know in the comments below. If you guys are interested, I can make that video as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, you can go ahead and purchase Dehancer for yourself at the link in the description. And if you want 10% off, use the code NILEDESTA. Get you, 10% off. And if you really just want to test it out, they have free trials. They also have that 3-month license, so go get you that. But yeah, I will catch you guys next time. Yeah.